what other advice do you have for Latino professionals or anyone who feels that maybe they don't fit into the traditional career mold, right?
I have a lot to say about that. And the main thing is, don't ask for advice to Hispanics that haven't done it. Because we all made that.
Hi, everyone. Today we have a very, very special guest, Sara from my home city, Medellin, Colombia, now at NASA. So, Sara and I met because we were both very fortunate to be recognized at the same time by Universidad EAFIT University, which is where I had the fortune to graduate as a software engineer. And they had this recognition called Inspiring Alumni. And we met and then we stayed in touch. And then Sara reached out to me to say, hey, let's work together to figure out ways to impact our home country, Colombia. So since then, we've been in touch, and I thought it would be great to learn more about her journey and inspire others to achieve all the amazing things that she's done. So Sara, bienvenida. Welcome to our Mass Impact podcast.
Hi, Monica. How are you? Thanks. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So let's start with your journey. So we don't really often see Latinos or even women at NASA. So could you please, por favor, share more about your personal journey? How do you go from Medellin, Colombia to Alabama, and how you became a NASA engineer?
Well, it's a long story, but I can make it very short. I never really imagined that I was going to be working at NASA. When I was doing my undergrad in Colombia at EAFIT University in mechanical engineering, I never really imagined or dreamt about working at NASA, right? And also, I think I never had in my mind that I was going to leave the country. So I never put a lot of effort on learning a good English. So everything was a surprise for me. So then I graduated and I had the opportunity to come to US and stay here with my boyfriend. And I said, well, I really need to learn English. And my biggest goal was, I'm going to be an engineer here. I want to make sure that I can validate my undergrad degree here in the US. So I started learning English while working at the same time. It was very hard because we didn't have a lot of money. And I remember I had to be at work at 8 a.m. And I used to study English at 5 a.m. So I was waking up very early to study English, then going to work. And that's how I learned English, like summarizing the idea. And then when I was feeling better with my English, I said, okay, so it's time for me to quit my job. And my husband was fully supportive of that. And I was dedicated like for 4 months only to study those exams to pass the university. So I found out the way to validate my studies and enroll to a university in Miami to do my master's degree. So I studied for those exams. I passed those exams and was able to join the university. And
incredible.
Yeah, that helped me a lot with my English as well. And then I started doing research in this university. And then that helped me a lot to grow and to start dreaming bigger.
Nice.
So when I graduated from this university, I was ready to go to the moon.
In the world.
Yeah, that's how everything started.
Nice. How do you go from being, finishing that master's degree in Miami to become a NASA engineer? How did that happen?
Okay, so I did research in my university in tribology. Tribology is the study of friction, lubrication, and wear. So everything that has two surfaces that are rubbing against each other, that's a tribological system, right? So I was doing
Okay.
research in tribology while doing my classes, and then I graduated. I finished my classes, and I got hired by the university as a researcher, and
Girl.
also I was teaching classes to undergrads. So
Nice.
I was in that process where I didn't have to go to class anymore, but I was teaching and I was being a researcher. And I said, I'm going to apply to NASA. I'm going to find a job and I'm going to apply to NASA. And I remember my mentor, one day he asked me, "Hey, Sarah, how's everything going when we're finding a job?" And I said, "Well, I'm only applying to NASA." And he got really mad at me. He was like, "Sarah, what's that? How's that? You're never going to get hired at NASA. That's so difficult. You need to apply to our jobs." And I was so
Right.
focused. And I said, "No, that's what I
That's my
want.
goal.
That's my goal. That's what I want." And I remember I was doing my studies at FIU, and I was working at FIU. So we had job fair in Orlando. And we
Uh-huh.
had a bus driving us from Miami to Orlando. So you pass by Kennedy Space Center.
Ah,
And
I'm
I
getting goosebumps.
and I remember I saw it from the bus and I said, "I'm gonna work here." And I told another
That's
guy,
just
"You know what?
incredible.
I'm gonna work here." And he was making jokes. "Yeah, your new bosses. Yeah, your new
Uh-huh.
bosses." When
Right.
I got hired at NASA, he texted me one day and he said, "I still remember the day on the
Oh my
bus
gosh.
when you said that I'm sure I'm going to work at NASA."
That is just so inspiring, Sarah, and perfect sort of transition to my next question because I've been reading a book about mindset from a Stanford professor, and it's called Mindset: The New Psychology of Success. And it's all about mindset and how our beliefs really, what we think about our capabilities and what is possible, drive our behaviors and the path that we choose in life. So you were confident that that's what you wanted to do and that that was possible for you. And that drove you to actually apply for the job and keep going until you got it. And so that's so important for women, Latinos, people from diverse backgrounds, because working for NASA is like so important and prestigious and it's so critical for humanity. Only the best go there. But the thinking that we can be the best too, right? And but that doesn't come without challenges and setbacks and failures. So share with us how does that mindset has played a role in your journey and any challenges that you had and how you overcame them and what you learned from them.
Well, I always said you are the decisions you make and you are the behavior that you have, right? Like
Yeah.
those things that you do daily, that's what defines who you are and the decisions you make daily, right? So I also believe as an engineer, I believe a lot of physics, right? I love physics.
Of course.
And I also think that we're energy. We vibrate, right?
Yeah.
Like waves, right? So I believe that depending on the decisions you make, depending on your mindset, depending on what you want, you behave and you take decisions based on that. And that is what everything combines makes you get what you really want, right? Is your decisions, is your behavior, your discipline, is the effort that you put on every single thing, thinking about your goal, what makes you get there one day. It is not
Hmm.
immediate. It's not like you're gonna get
Yeah.
an immediate reward. But if you're focused on something and everything around you is kind of vibrating towards that, I'm pretty sure you're gonna get it.
Yeah, no pain, no gain, right? And there's no shortcut to success. So that's great. So I'm sure there's a lot of interesting work always happening at NASA. Please help us understand or highlight some of the groundbreaking projects or initiatives that you've been involved with during your time at NASA.
Okay, I love working at NASA because NASA is that place that you said, if you dream it, you can make it, right?
Right.
So when I talk with people about, yeah, has moon quakes, like shaking. What are we gonna do with that? The lunar dust is very abrasive, and it goes inside the mechanisms, inside everything, the helmets, the wrist,
Mm,
everything, and it can clog up the mechanisms. What are we gonna do about that? Right?
mhm,
When we think about, okay, what are we gonna do with the trash? The
mhm,
moon doesn't have an atmosphere. So here on Earth, we have an atmosphere that protects us from radiation, right? When you put something, whatever you put outside, and the sun is hitting every day, so the materials get cracked, the materials get deteriorated. What are we going to do with our materials on the moon if we don't even have an atmosphere protecting us from radiation? All those
mhm.
cracks, all the deterioration of the materials happens because of radiation. What are we going to do about that? Um, how can we recycle our trash? What are we gonna do with the orbital debris? How can we
Yeah.
reutilize if those metals have been already launched and we have satellites that are not operating anymore? We have trash. What are we gonna do with that? Right?
That's so interesting. I didn't even think about space trash.
Exactly. Like, we have to think about that. If the
Yep.
moon doesn't have water, and water is one of the main resources to keep humans alive, where are we gonna get the
Mhm.
water from? If launching water is so expensive, because water is such a dense liquid and it is so
Yeah.
heavy, so launching water is very expensive. Can we get water from the resources of the moon? Can we construct mere houses or construct uh, light power supplies from the resources of the moon? So all those questions that pique on your curiosity and make you dream about impossible things, that's what we do at NASA. So we're all the time picking the brain of students, academic partners, private sector, and we're like, look, we need to solve this issue. Let's do it. Let's do it as a team. Let's
Mhm.
start thinking. Let's start brainstorming. How are we gonna do that? So they're amazing topics. Like, for example, what happens to fire when we don't have gravity? What happens
Mm.
to water when we're boiling water? What happens with the bubbles if we don't have gravity?
My goodness. That's amazing. So you're talking a lot about the moon. Does that mean there's a lot of effort to make the moon the next livable space for humans?
Okay, so NASA is focused on going to Mars. However, if we want to go to Mars, we need to learn how to keep humans alive, how to keep our food, vegetables and cells
Mhm.
alive. How are we going to protect ourselves from radiation,
Right.
right? Right now, with the technology we have, going from Earth to Mars is taking us 8 months. Right now,
Mhm.
it is very difficult to keep an alive cell, a cell alive
Mhm.
with the big radiation that we have to face from here to Mars, right? So to go from Earth to Mars and to being able to have people alive and cells from food and everything that we need, water and resources alive, we need to learn that stepping on the moon first. So our
Right.
step on the moon is to learn what are we gonna do to mitigate all those risks, and then
Mm-hmm.
once we know how to construct from the using the resources, how are we gonna get oxygen? How are we gonna store oxygen? What are we gonna do with
Right.
the water? Like communications, we need to improve communications as well. Right
Right.
now, it takes 30 minutes to send signal to Mars and another 30 minutes to bring it back to Earth. So it's a full hour. If an astronaut is on Mars and this person needs help, we don't
Yeah.
have, we can't do it
It
right
might be
now.
too late when we
It's
learn
gonna be too
about the
late.
message.
Exactly.
That's just really fascinating. And just thinking about how we need to challenge our thinking to even solve problems that are not things that we face on Earth, right? So the innovation is just really different, right? You're literally doing things that have not been done before. And I'd love to see, Latinos represented having those amazing discussions. In technology, we have this concept of MVP, minimum viable product, right? Let's do something small, let's test it, let's experiment. And once that works, let's expand it. So it sounds like the moon is NASA's MVP, a big undertaking, right? But still something that will tell us how then to learn and get to Mars. So that's incredible. Thank you for sharing such environment, right? Where big challenges, big ideas. I wonder about the culture, right? How does an organization like NASA sort of form this idea of experimenting? A lot of failures, right? Because you don't know what you don't know, but you need to keep inspiring people to keep going. There's also cost involved. How does that how does diversity play a role into it, right? Getting all these diverse perspectives because you're literally impacting everyone on Earth, right? So tell us a little bit about that. What is a day like when you're working on these amazing projects at NASA?
Something about the NASA culture that impacted me a lot when I was a new hire was the communication, the teamwork, accountability, and how each person has value on the room, right? Everybody is heard, everybody has something to add. There's no bad
Sure.
ideas. We don't have crazy ideas. We don't have crazy solutions. Everything could be,
Right?
right? Everything could be the reason why things are not working out. So I remember, I always tell this story because that impacted me. It was my second day at NASA, and I was invited to a meeting to discuss a failure. And they were talking, yeah, what happened with this? And I just came from university from teaching material
Mm-hmm.
science. And I said, I think I know what happened to that material and why the material broke. But who am I here with
Yeah.
a room like with 50, 60
Full of
people?
experts.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
aerospace experts. Who am I to say my opinion? And then they were talking, talking, talking. And I said, you know what? I'm going to raise my hand just because
Nice.
I'm crazy. So I raised my hand and I said, well, I believe that what happened was this, and another person got up and he said, yeah, and I think after that happened, this could have happened,
Oh
and then
my
another
God.
person, yeah, and boom, 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 and then we had a theory of what could have happened, why that we're seeing the failure that we were seeing. and and I was amazed. I was like, wow, who am I? Like I'm a Colombian lady with a
Yeah.
lot of accent.
Immigrant, new.
No, it is my second day at NASA, and I was hurt. Wow. And then I started learning about this NASA culture where we have experts for everything, right? Experts for
Uh-huh.
valves, experts for ducts, experts for tribology, experts for everything. And when you go to one of these experts, hey, can I learn about corrosion? People is so happy to show you. People is so uh, happy to get you engaged and to learn from
Uh-huh.
them. There's not like jealousy. There's not like, no, you're not gonna learn what I'm doing because
Right.
you're gonna
Job
take.
security.
Yeah, no, like people is happy to share. People is happy to see other people learning. We even have
Right.
a program when you're a new hire at NASA. We have a program that is called PIP. PIP stands for um, Professional Internship Program, something like that. Might be
Uh-huh.
wrong, but something like that. So the PIP program, what you have to do when you're a new hire is you get hired by your home organization, let's say
Uh-huh.
communications, right?
Okay.
But you can rotate for 6 months to three different organizations. So you learn,
Mm.
so you're hired and you don't go to your home organization. You go for
Okay.
3 months or 6 months to this other organization, then you rotate to another organization, then you rotate
Uh,
it to another organization, and then you come and you learn about your home organization and start
right.
learning for the role that you got hired for, right? But
Yeah.
when you start learning about your home organization, you already know how NASA looks like from different organizations, and you already
Yeah.
have those bridges
Yeah.
built from people that is going to help you forever in your career
Yeah.
because you make those
That makes a lot
bridges
of
and
sense.
and you're like, wow, I still talk a lot with the people from my rotation.
Right. Yeah. You build the relationships early on. You learn more about how your job impacts other parts of the organization. So I love that aspect of, on your second day, you spoke up, you were heard. And I'm sure that led you to speak up even more, right? Because now you know that it's okay, right, to speak up. And it takes a lot of courage and, that bold move and raising your hand. So hopefully that's already very inspiring to our listeners. It doesn't matter where you are. You can be in a room full of NASA experts and your voice is important, right? You can still make your voice heard. So along those same lines, and you already provided some advice, but what other advice do you have for Latino professionals or anyone who feels that maybe they don't fit into the traditional career mold, right? Especially they're aiming to, have these ambitious goals of let's go to Mars or let's learn about living, in the earth and maybe discuss the importance of mentorship and sponsorship that maybe sometimes our community doesn't pay attention to.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that. And the main thing is, don't ask for advice to Hispanics that haven't done it,
Mm.
because we all made that. So we go and we ask, hey, do you know how can I validate my career? And I ask that question to too many people that have never done that,
Mm.
right? That they used to work, in restaurants or doing something, but not their professional, their
Right.
careers from our countries. And we
Yeah.
believe that our careers, our learning, our what we have learned from our countries is not gonna be valid here. Is not gonna have value here, right?
Mhm.
But it's not that case. I even remember when I was in Miami asking everywhere, hey, how can I become an engineer in the US? I asked everybody that I knew. I never got an answer. I even contacted a newspaper, a Hispanic newspaper in
Wow.
Miami, and I asked them. And I asked so many times that they said, like, you're getting us crazy. We are going to set up a meeting to explain how people can do that. So I went to the meeting, and the final message was, start a new career. Forget about your career, and why don't you start a technical career here? So being a technical career or doing an associate, that can be easier for you. It's going to give you money immediately, and it's going to be easy, right? And I was so disappointed, and I said, I'm sure it can be more than that.
There's gotta be a way.
It has to be a way that I can validate my career from Colombia here in the US, and I'm going to find out how. So I remember I used to send messages to those actors and actors, and that they have those everybody, that they have those grants and help to go to school and things like that.
Right.
I never got a reply back from anybody. And I also remember I used to call to FIU, the university that I went to. And I was, hey, from Colombia, engineer. And they were like, what? No, I'm sorry, I can't understand. No, and both. And I was like, oh my gosh, how can I, make them to understand me? And I went to the university, and half with my hands, half speaking English. I was able to get enrolled, and I was able to be part of what I wanted, right?
Yeah.
So get advice from people that has done it. That's the key. Don't ask, because you're gonna get a lot of you're gonna see a lot of doors closed. You're gonna get a lot of advice that is gonna make you feel disappointed and make you feel that you're never gonna do it, when it's not the reality. You can do it. If you're dreaming, it's because you can do it. Just go and find a way.
I love that. Go and find the way. And I feel like that's sort of the values as Latinos, that tenacity, that I don't care how many messages I've sent and how many no's I got, there's got to be a way, and I'm going to find it. And you did. And look at the difference it made. So the persistence, the determination, the tenacity, and the quality of people that we surround ourselves with, right? How do we find those people who have actually done what we're trying to achieve, so that we can get some valid advice? So that's great. Thank you for that, Sara. So I guess let's switch to technology, because that's sort of, my field and what we do at Mass Global. What are some of those most significant sort of technological or scientific advancements that we can expect in the sort of space technology industry in the years ahead? And there's definitely a lot of discussion nowadays around artificial intelligence. I'm also curious about how is NASA seeing AI impacting positively, hopefully, your mission.
Okay, there's a lot that we're gonna see in the years ahead. I expect a lot of advancement in construction, communication, robotics, because the aerospace field is gonna be in so much need of all those things, right? And I think the aerospace community is putting a lot of effort on this, and we're gonna see a technology revolution on these topics. That's how I see it. Communication, robotics, and that comes with artificial intelligence, of course, teaching a machine how to get the information and take decisions. For example, if we think about investigating the human body in space, where we don't have the gravity effects, how can we deliver drugs easily? How can we test the cells easier? For example, if you are prone to have a disease, right, and you go to space, the effect of not having gravity is gonna accelerate your cells faster. So you're gonna get more chances to develop that disease. That helps science a lot because they can test drugs on cells and get the results way faster than experiments here on Earth, right? So teaching a machine about how this drug is doing in different bodies, in different cells, in different blood types, or you know, that's gonna bring so much benefit to humanity, to all of us. For I expect to have a cure for cancer. I expect to have a cure for Alzheimer. I expect to have a cure for what's the name of that? Multiple sclerosis.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nice.
yeah, and some other diseases that are affecting humans right now, I expect to see cure for those, thanks to aerospace and space
That's
development.
fascinating because we're always thinking about, well, are we going to learn how to live somewhere else because we might not have an earth, a livable earth, right? With climate change and everything that's happening. But yes, you're working on that. But at the same time, all the innovation that you have going on can actually impact, longevity and healthcare outcomes. So that is really amazing. And I'm just so proud of you, Sarah, being part of such impactful work. That is really great. So you are a mom like me, right? And there's so many challenges in the world, right? Global economy, macroeconomic issues, there's war going on, there's climate change, and then we deal with our own jobs, the pressures of being, a mom and supporting our families and being an immigrant. It's just a lot. And stress and depression, and those are very real issues. So I wonder how you deal with all of that work life balance, integration, wellness. What advice do you have for other people having such high demanding jobs like you do?
So I believe what I have seen in my life is I cannot mix my job with my kids. That's an explosion, right? So I know exactly the time that I need to be working, so I'm working, and the time that I need to be at home, I'm full at home. I'm not half working
Okay.
with my phone and playing with my kids at the same time. No, no. So I have the limits very defined, right? Working time and being a mom. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing. And the other thing is being grateful for the efforts that you do, value what you do, being grateful for the people that is around you, for your team, being grateful for your kids, being grateful for having health, for having your house, for having warm water. I keep telling my kids, we have to be grateful for having light, for having electricity. You know how many
Yeah.
engineers and scientists and people has worked so we can live that comfortable? We need to be
Yeah.
grateful for everything. If you're not grateful, you can easily fall into depression. But if you're
Yep.
grateful, you're gonna find joy in the small things, like daily things, right? Like watching a movie in your bed with your kids,
Mm-hmm.
going to trick or treating with them.
Yeah.
So that all that comes from being grateful. And also, for example, in our job environment, you need to be grateful for people, what people is doing, what people is contributing, every advice. Nobody launches a rocket by themselves, by herself
Yeah.
or himself, right? So it's everything because we are in a community. So we as humans, we are such social species. So
Yeah.
if we don't live with our social clues and skills and lives, we can easily fall in depression. So I think that being grateful is the key.
I just absolutely love that. I was reading the other day that if you train your brain to find those things to be grateful for, like every day, the minute you wake up, three things that I'm grateful for. And then your brain sort of gets into this habit of finding those things that you should be grateful for. And it just changes your perspective on things. So thank you for that advice. And so coming to an end here, the theme of our podcast is mass impact and driving diversity in technology and in business. You and I have so much in common, right? Being, from Medellin, Colombia, being immigrants, finding a way to do what we wanted to do, even though we heard a lot of no's in the way, right? We're both engineers, you're a mechanical engineer, I'm a software engineer, and we're both here in this country trying to contribute, right? And give the world a better place. So I guess the question is, how do you pay it forward, right? How do you create mass impact in your community and around you? And how can you inspire other people to do the same?
So the first thing that shocked me in this country was when I got enrolled in the university, I didn't have money to pay for a university here. So I paid only for one class. After everything I did to get enrolled, I didn't even have the money to pay for the university. So my husband and I, we were able to save the money to pay for one class. In that class, when I enrolled the university, I was knocking on the doors for different professors at the university and saying, hey, I want to be part of your research team as a volunteer. Mm-hmm. So I started as a volunteer for that semester with one of my professors. I love him. He changed my life. And he gave me the opportunity to start volunteering with him. And after 6 months, I asked him, do you have any opportunities for me to work as part of your research team? And he said, Sara, I'm not only going to hire you on my research team, but I'm also going to pay for your classes. So he paid for my career. And now,
that's amazing.
From NASA, I have paid for the career for too many kids and students that work with him and work with other professors. So I find the resources internally at NASA to propose these projects in collaboration with the universities. And we are able to pay the tuition for these students. And they're from Colombia, from India, from China. So I know how difficult it is for them, but I love when they're able to come to our labs and work with us, or even when they cannot be on site with us. So they're working with us from the university in these amazing projects, picking up their creativity and being heard and being accountable. So I think that makes me feel so good because I know what that meant for me, and I know the impact that we're doing in their lives. So yeah, that's one of the things. And also, I love to talk with students. I like to tell my story, teach them, and encourage them to learn English and tell them the story how I was able to make my career here using my degree from Colombia. So I have talked with so many kids and students. I love doing that.
That is just so beautiful, Sara. I'm just really, genuinely, very, very inspired. And I've heard your story before, but today I learned so many like little pieces of it that are so impactful. I mean, the fact that you had so much determination to get to college, right? But then you didn't even have the money. But that didn't stop you. So I'm going to start with one class. I'll figure out the rest later. And then you know firsthand the impact that it has when someone like your professor gives you a chance, right? And so now when we sort of made it, right, and we're leading companies, or you are doing amazing things at NASA, to really figure out ways to us being that person to give somebody else a chance, and then that person is going to be grateful, and hopefully they will give somebody else a chance. And it's just such a beautiful circle of life. At Mass, we love to say juntos somos más, together we are more. And that's what happens, right, when we see, the impact that we can have in other people's lives. So thank you, gracias so much for sharing not only your story, but your passion is just so evident in everything you do. I'm sure our listeners learned so much from you, and hopefully everyone is leaving here inspired, energized. If people like Sara can make it and can be part of such incredible, impactful things for humanity, they so can you, right? Anyone from any diverse background, regardless of where you are, your background, or where you were born, or what you're trying to do. If you put in the effort, if you find the quality of people that you need to mentor you, to sponsor you, and you are determined, then you can definitely get there. So gracias, Sara, and hope to see you again soon.